So I base most of my macro indicators. In fact, I base my moniker. So right now I'm Dr. Bullcrab, as you mentioned. I think there are 5 distinct phases. So I'll go through these real quick. It starts at bearish. So markets are cyclical and they constantly are ebbing and flowing. They start as bear markets. So I was affectionately or disaffectionately called Dr. Bear back in 2022. And then it goes from bear to crabbish. So bear crab. There's bear crab, crab, bull crab, and bull. So we're not quite to bullish phase. And why do I say that? It's for me, it's really based on what is the global M2 monetary supply doing? What is US net liquidity doing? I'll just real briefly touch on those because that's where I start every day. That's the first thing I look at. So US net liquidity. US net liquidity is basically what is the central banks doing? What do they have on their balance sheet? The amount of assets, is that increasing or decreasing? And then you subtract what's going on in the overnight reverse repo market and you subtract the treasury general account from that. And when you get those 3 numbers together, you're left with something called US net liquidity. US net liquidity has been range bound, chopping sideways like a crab. That's why I keep saying crab, chopping sideways for 2 years. It's literally at the 2-year mark right now. And it's at the top end of that range. That's why I lean towards bull crabbish, bullish in my crab zone, but still crabbish. It's still chopping sideways. It still hasn't broken out of that range. Why does that matter? US based assets are strongly correlated with what US net liquidity is doing. And so when I say US based assets, mainly US stocks. So US small cap stocks, mid cap stocks, and micro cap stocks generally follow. And I get a kick out of so many people who don't get this or don't even believe it. I'm like, look at the charts. Like it's almost impossible to deny. You can literally watch these things go, and within like a week or two, small cap stocks tend to follow exactly what US net liquidity is doing. So that would be my number one giveaway secret. Follow US net liquidity. The other secret is follow global M2. Why? Because global M2 money supply is closely correlated with what global assets do. The most prominent being Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is it's distributed as the internet. It's basically everywhere already, even though it's not a great medium of exchange yet. It's a fantastic store of value. Bitcoin tends to rise and fall based on what global M2 is doing. Global M2, it has many factors and there are lots of nuances for how to calculate this. I always tell people, if you want to have the very best work on that, go follow a guy named Michael Howell from Cross Border Capital on Twitter. He puts out the best work on that. And I have sort of the poor man's version that I follow of that. But as global M2 tends to rise, that tends to mean that what's happening is the global economy is doing well and banks are lending and they're expanding the global monetary supply. In contradistinction, when that is falling and banks are starting to clamp down and they're not making loans and loans are getting destroyed and people are going bankrupt and all that kind of stuff, global M2 decreases. That tends to mean global assets tend to follow that same course, like Bitcoin, like gold, and then which most people don't think about, but US technology stocks, the mega cap tech stocks, the Amazon, Apples, the FANGs, as people think of them, or Magma, or however you want to think about it, Microsoft, those stocks, they are global assets. And so lots of people around the world invest in these companies, and that's sort of a surrogate global asset as well. They rise and fall with global M2. So what is global M2 doing? It's been in a 3-year band of chopping sideways, interestingly, and it is also at the very top of it right now. It keeps trying to poke through and start a new uptrend. When it does, and the people always ask me, when are you going to turn bullish? Are you Dr. Bull? I literally get that question 10 times every single day. And I say the same answer every single time. It's when that breaks higher, when global M2 starts to finally trend higher again, that will mean that the global economy has found its footing again and banks are starting to lend again. Global M2 is expanding. I will turn into Dr. Bull at that point. We're not there yet of its range, and we can talk about that if you want. But until that breaks free, I just have kind of tempered expectation. This has been a great run for Bitcoin. I'm really happy for all of us who have been in Bitcoin for years and are finally seeing some redemption and validity. But we haven't even started the bull market yet. This is still the pre-game warm-up. Usually what happens is, and it's not always, and we've only have a couple cycles to look at, but we tend to have a lot of hype building up into the halving, and then there's usually a letdown after that. So I would not be surprised, whatever the price of Bitcoin is at halving. I have my price range target, which is unchanged, 62,500 at the low end up to 75,000. It's still sitting in that range. I hope I'm wrong. There's a lot of people are saying we're going to hit 100. I hope they're right. I don't think they're going to be, but that's just based on the models I look at. After the halving, don't be surprised if we get a letdown. That's very typical for that to happen. And so a lot of people think they're going to be saying it's going to the moon. You're stupid, if you don't think so. Mortgage your house today and get a HELOC and put all your money in Bitcoin. I think they're going to be disappointed. I think it's possible that we see a significant drop of Bitcoin into the 40 or 50,000s after halving in the summer. I keep telling people, and this is sort of a joke, but just so people have something to work with because they always want predictions. I think the bull market starts in earnest on Michael Jackson's birthday, and I'll let people Google that to find out when that is. It's late summer, and then things get exciting. I think then we're going to see global M2 backing. Then I will start telling people I'm Dr. Bull again. Then we're going to have global M2 backing and supporting and acting as a tailwind to the price of Bitcoin. Then things get exciting. So as we head into the fourth quarter of this year and into 2025, I think we're definitely going to be above 6 digits. I could be wrong, just a guess, not individual investment advice, but I think it's going to be well above 100,000, and I think we're going to go much higher as 2025 drags on. So I'm very much looking forward to what's coming, even though it's been fun so far. The game hasn't even started yet, so kind of buckle up for what's next.
You've also talked about in the past many times that it's, you believe it's very important to value your net worth. Look at your balance sheet, look at your financial statements in terms of Bitcoin. Could you just spend a minute kind of talking about, kind of how someone does that, but also the importance of that?
I think all of government fiat currency is just one massive rug pull. And it gets back to what we're talking about. It's literally designed to steal the purchasing power from individuals and corporations for the benefit of whoever controls it. And who controls fiat currency? It's the government, right? It's the central banks and it's the treasury through their issuance. So they get the benefit from it. And it's designed to, when I say it's a rug pull, it sort of pulls the wool over your eyes, meaning that you can think in nominal US dollar terms that you are getting wealthier every year because you look at your brokerage account statements, you look at the value of your house or whatever assets you may have, and you think, I'm getting wealthier because the percentage, it's a little green number and it has a plus sign in front of it, and I have gotten, say, whatever, I've made 10% on my stock market investments this year and another 8% on my house. Isn't that awesome? But what happens is, because of inflation, so price inflation, which is different than monetary debasement, but they're linked over the long term, you can actually be losing purchasing power over time, even though it looks like on paper your net worth is going higher. So Bitcoin, I believe, even though it's extremely volatile, over time it is the most accurate, it's the only honest unit of account. So it's the only accurate measuring stick, basically. So I've started doing this probably 3 years ago or so, and I really do recommend this for everybody. First of all, as a financial guy, an investment advisor and fund manager, I think everybody should be keeping track of their net worth. I think it's a good exercise. Like pull out an Excel spreadsheet and just go through everything you own, put that as your assets, and then put your debt on there. Those are your liabilities, and add you have the assets, you subtract the liabilities, and whatever that number is, that's your net worth. I like to do that on a monthly basis just to know where we're standing, because a lot of people think they have more money than they do, and then they realize, oh my gosh, I actually am in debt. I have a negative net worth, and most Americans actually do have a negative net worth, which is unfortunate. Bitcoin, I think, actually gives you an accurate number. So what's interesting, like for case in point, for most people who do this, most people's net worth in US dollar terms has gone up since the end of 2022. So since the stock market has returned and since Bitcoin has increased in price and values have kind of bottomed and started rising again, a lot of people see their value increasing significantly in dollar terms, but then interestingly, they're actually decreasing in Bitcoin terms. So if you have a bunch of fiat assets, and I'd look at anything basically outside of Bitcoin as a fiat asset, so your house, your stocks, your bonds, whatever, they may be going up in value, but they're actually losing in terms of Bitcoin. So their real valuation is actually going down. I just think it's a healthy exercise for people to think about that. It helps people develop a Bitcoin standard much more quickly when you value your life and your net worth in Bitcoin terms. Highly recommended. I think all people should do that. At the very least, value it in dollar terms. But once you start to understand Bitcoin, you understand you want to use an accurate measuring stick, an accurate ruler. So if you want to actually accurately know what your net worth is, you should be doing it in terms of Bitcoin.
I do want to go into some Warren Buffett, like Groman and Preston the other day were just talking about this. So I'd love to get your thoughts on his cash. And he just continually keeps growing his balance sheet with cash over the last 15 years. And what's he doing? If you want the answer to that question right there, and you like that spicy clip, check it out here. Come on, we'll see you in there. But if you want the full interview in its entirety, all the spicy clips put together, and you're not going to want to miss it, believe me, then check that out here. Come on, we'll see you in there. Do it.